Sometimes the scariest part of a workplace incident isn't the chaos of the moment, it's the silence just before it. The silence where no one said anything. The seconds before the fall. The breath before the explosion. The shift where everyone assumed things were fine because they always had been. And then suddenly, they weren't. Workplace safety isn't just about massive failures or high-risk jobs, it's about the quiet decisions, the small, overlooked practices that we think don't matter, until they do. In our last few videos, we broke down the numbers behind workplace safety, the hazards hiding in plain sight, and the deadly trap of doing things the way they've always been done. But today, we're focusing in even tighter. Because when you understand just how powerful the little things are, you realize that safety isn't a poster, it's a practice. It's blended into our culture through daily habits. This video is about the 5.5 most overlooked safety practices that could save a life. Maybe your life, maybe someone you work beside every day. These aren't complicated, but they're easy to forget, easy to skip, and each one comes with a story, a real one, of what happens when they're ignored. Let's take a look at our first practice that gets overlooked with poor culture. You've likely seen them on a clipboard, maybe even filled one out yourself, but here's the truth. Most workers either rush them, fake them, pencil whip them, skip them entirely, or even worse, fill them out after an event has occurred, just to cover their asses. I have seen it all too many times. So, here's the problem, because hazards are fluid. Just because the task was safe yesterday doesn't mean it's safe today. We have to remember our workplaces are constantly changing. Some of those small effects can have huge consequences, creating injuries, illness, property damage, of even death. In 2017, a construction crew in Melbourne, Australia, was installing steel beams when one of the workers was crushed. The site had conducted hazard assessments for the project weeks earlier, but not that day. The rigging had changed. Wind speeds were higher than forecasted, but no one had paused to reassess. That simple pause might have saved a life. According to SafeWork Australia, nearly 1/3 of all serious injuries result from not identifying or controlling hazards before beginning a task. In Canada, the majority of high-severity injuries investigated by provincial regulators cite the lack of a current hazard assessment as a contributing factor. It takes 90 seconds or even less to stop and ask, what could go wrong today? That pause might be the most important moment of your shift. Now let's move to the second overlooked safety practice: clear handovers and shift change communication. Transitions are one of the riskiest times in any operation. One team finishes, another begins, people are tired, eager to go home, eager to start. And in between those moments, critical information is lost. In 2005, an oil refinery in Texas City, USA, experienced one of the most devastating industrial explosions in U.S. history. 15 workers died. Over 180 were injured. One of the key failures identified in the investigation was a breakdown in communication during shift change. A relief operator didn't receive key information about liquid levels in a process tower. That missing detail led to overfilling, a pressure surge, and an explosion. The U.S. Chemical Safety Board has highlighted that nearly 40% of all major chemical incidents involve miscommunication at shift handovers, but this isn't just a refinery issue. In hospitals, handover errors are one of the top 3 contributors to patient harm worldwide. The World Health Organization reports that up to 20% of preventable adverse medical events are linked to poor communication during transitions. A solid handover isn't just a good luck and a wave. It's an intentional, structured transfer of risk awareness. And if that sounds like overkill, talk to someone who's had to deal with the fallout of what wasn't said. Let's move on to overlooked practice number 3, inspecting personal protective equipment every time you wear it. Now this might sound like the most basic safety rule out there, but it's not about whether someone is wearing PPE. It's about whether the PPE is still doing its job, or even if they have the correct PPE for the task. In 2020, a tunnel worker in Zurich was killed when his fall arrest harness failed during a maintenance task. An investigation revealed that the harness had passed its annual inspection, but had not been visually checked that day. UV damage had weakened the webbing. A quick personal check might have caught it, but it didn't happen. In the UK, the Health and Safety Executive has reported that up to 20% of PPE involved in incidents shows signs of visible wear or damage that went unnoticed or unreported prior to use. This isn't just about harnesses, it's about cracked face shields, cut-resistant gloves with unseen tears, dust masks that no longer seal, hard hats that have been baking in a truck bed for months. These are the things we trust with our lives, but only if we check them, every time. It takes 30 seconds to inspect, and it can make the difference between a close call and a catastrophic injury. How about having properly fitted respiratory masks? Have you been fit tested, or are you cleanly shaven to ensure proper fit? And do you have the correct filters? There are an abundance of types of filters for various hazardous materials. Do you have the correct ones? Now let's talk about something more psychological, more behavioral. Overlooked safety practice number 4, reporting near misses. Let me tell you a story from Sweden. In 2014, a warehouse employee narrowly avoided being struck by a falling pallet. It missed him by inches. No injury, no damage. He shook it off. 2 weeks later, a similar pallet fell, this time hitting a different employee, breaking his collarbone and causing permanent nerve damage. The investigation showed that the racking system was unstable. Had the first near miss been reported, it could have triggered a structural review. This isn't uncommon. In fact, research from the European Agency for Safety and Health at Work shows that for every serious injury, there are approximately 30 minor injuries and over 300 near misses. That's the ratio, 1 to 30 to 300. It's called the Heinrich Pyramid, and it's not a myth. It's a pattern seen across every industry. And yet, near misses are underreported by as much as 90%. Why? Because they don't hurt. Because we get lucky. Because we don't want to make it a big deal. But near misses are gifts. They are early warning systems. They are the stories we can tell before there's blood. A culture that celebrates near miss reporting isn't paranoid, it's prepared. Overlooked safety practice number 5, checking for hazard drift. Hazard drift is what happens when unsafe conditions become normal over time. It's the worn-out signage that no one replaces, the emergency exit that's always blocked just temporarily, the forklift shortcut through a pedestrian zone, the small leak that everyone steps over. One of the clearest examples happened in 2011 at a Russian coal mine. A methane gas leak, long reported and long ignored, led to an explosion that killed 110 miners. Miners had reported the smell of gas for weeks, but readings seemed within limits, and when nothing happened, the concern faded. That's hazard drift. Hazard drift refers to the slow, often unnoticed shift in what a team or organization accepts as normal. Over time, unsafe practices or deteriorating conditions, things that once would have been seen as unacceptable, become tolerated simply because nothing has gone wrong yet. It's a gradual lowering of standards that masks risk until it's too late. In the US, the Mine Safety and Health Administration found that in over 60% of fatal mining incidents, the hazard had been present and known, but was no longer perceived as urgent due to prolonged exposure without incident. The longer we live with risk, the less risky it feels, until it becomes deadly. The only way to fight drift is to deliberately step back, to ask, is this normal, or have we just gotten used to it? And now the half step. The point 5. The most important part of this entire video, it's the part only you can write. Here's what I'm asking you to do, right now, or before your next shift, or on your next break. Pick one thing, one small intentional safety action you're going to take today at your workplace. Not tomorrow, not next week, today. Maybe you're going to stop and do a proper hazard assessment before starting that next task. Maybe you'll inspect your PPE and tag out a cracked face shield instead of just making it work. Maybe you'll report a near miss you experienced yesterday. Maybe you'll walk your area and look for signs of hazard drift, places where safety has slowly slid into convenience. Or maybe you'll check in with someone else and ask, hey, what would make your job safer today? Whatever it is, that's your task. You be the point 5. And I want to hear it. Drop it in the comments right now, right after this video. Maybe even come back later to tell your action story. Make you practicing safety real, because safety isn't a slogan, it's a choice. A choice we make every day in the small things. And when you take that half step, you're not just protecting yourself, you're leading. You're showing others that safety isn't someone else's job, it's all of ours. You're building culture, not the kind that lives on posters, but the kind that shows up in action, conversation, and care. So let's fill the comments with action. Not performative, not polished, just real people, doing real things to make the world a little safer. One small step at a time. And if this resonated with you, if it made you think of something in your workplace that's been left unchecked, hit that subscribe button, because we're not done. Next time, we're diving even deeper into the choices, the habits, and the leadership behaviors that truly change the game. This is Safety Smart HQ, and this is how we lead, by paying attention to the things others overlook. Let's get to work.